Welcome to Patentomatics channel. In our today, we are going to talk about World Wide Web patent, U.S. patent number 5,659,634, issued to Tim Berners-Lee in 1997. To make sure to hit the like button, also share and don't forget to subscribe this channel. Tim Berners-Lee, a British scientist, invented the World Wide Web, WWW, in 1989, while working at CERN. The web was originally conceived and developed to meet the demand for automated information sharing between scientists in universities and institutes around the world. Berners-Lee was speaking about the future of the Internet, as he does often and fervently and with great animation at a remarkable cadence. With an Oxonian wisp of hair framing his chiseled face, Berners-Lee appears the consummate academic, communicating rapidly, in a clipped London accent, occasionally skipping over words and eliding sentences as he stammers to convey a thought. His soliloquy was a mixture of excitement with traces of melancholy. Nearly 3 decades earlier, Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web. Throck, this whole world changed. On this morning, he had come to Washington as part of his mission to save it. At 63, Berners-Lee has thus far had a career more or less divided into 2 phases. In the first, he attended Oxford, worked at the Euro-European Organization for Nuclear Research, CERN, and then, in 1989, came up with the idea that eventually became the web. Initially, Berners-Lee's innovation was intended to help scientists share data across a then obscure platform called the Internet, a version of which the US government had been using since the 1960s. But owing to his decision to release the source code for free, to make the web an open and democratic platform for all, his brainchild quickly took on a life of its own. He would be named one of the 20th century's most important figures by Time, receive the Turing Award, named after the famed code breaker, for achievements in the computer sciences, and be honored at the Olympics. He is the Martin Luther King of our new digital world, says Darren Walker, president of the Ford Foundation. He has been knighted by the Queen. Berners-Lee is a former member of the Foundation's Board of Trustees. The World Wide Web Consortium, W3C, the global standard-setting body for the web, has presented the United States Patent and Trademark Office with prior art establishing that U.S. patent number 5,838,906, the 906 patent, is invalid and should therefore be re-examined in order to eliminate this unjustified impediment to the operation of the web. The W3C is urging U.S. Under-Secretary of Commerce for Intellectual Property James E. Rogan to initiate a re-examination of the patent because critical prior art was neither considered the time patent was initially granted, nor during recent patent infringement litigation. In an unprecedented step, Tim Berners-Lee, W3C director and inventor of the web, sent a letter today to Under-Secretary Rogan requesting that his office reinvestigate the matter. W3C urges the USPTO to initiate a re-examination of the 906 patent in order to prevent substantial economic and technical damage to the operation of World Wide Web, stated Berners-Lee. The impact of this patent will be felt not only by those who are alleged to directly infringe, but all whose web pages and application rely on the stable, standards-based operation of browsers threatened by this patent. In many cases, those who will be forced to incur the cost of modifying web pages or software applications do not even themselves infringe the patent, assuming it is even valid. The object embedding technology has been part of the HTML standard since the early days of the web. The 906 patent affects broad range of web functionality. This feature, supposedly covered by the 906 patent, provides critical flexibility to web browsers, and giving users seamless access to important features that extend the browser's capabilities. Changes forced by the 906 patent will also have a permanent impact on millions of historically important web pages. In many cases, these pages contain non-commercial content or older material that is not generating revenue. As a result, there is no way to cover the cost of modifying those pages to bring them into compliance with whatever changes are made in response to the 906 patent. The 906 patent has disruptive impact on established web standards. If the 906 patent remains in force, web page authors who have followed web standards for embedding objects will face a need for additional work, as browsers are re-engineered to avoid the patented features. Even though page authors haven't violated the patent, they will still bear the cost of rewriting web pages or software applications, as browsers will no longer be able to perform in the manner they once did. Critical, previously unreviewed prior art points to invalidity of 906. The sole difference between the web browser described in the 906 patent and typical browsers that the patent itself acknowledges as prior art, is that, with prior art browsers. But that feature, i.e., displaying, or embedding, content generated by an external program in the same window as the rest of a web page, was already described in the prior art filing submitted by W3C. Commissioner should act given huge costs to the web and prior art not considered during the initial patent examination. The 906 patent will cause cascades of incompatibility to ripple through the web. Yet, it's not too late to remedy this problem. W3C believes that the Commissioner of the Patent and Trademark Office can and should order a re-examination of the 906 patent. The material W3C presented in its Section 301 filing clearly establishes that the 906 patent is invalid. About the World Wide Web Consortium, W3C, an international organization made up of nearly 400 members from industry, academe, users organizations and public policy experts, is responsible for setting the core technical standards for the World Wide Web. Since its launch by Tim Berners-Lee, web inventor, in 1994, W3C has led the development of web standards and, with these standards, established the basic architecture for the World Wide Web. W3C has produced nearly 60 technical recommendations ranging from the hypertext markup language, HTML, and extensible markup language, XML, to digital signatures, cascading style sheets, CSS, guidelines for web accessibility, the platform for privacy preferences, P3P. But Amazon's one-click method, which reduces the amount of information you have to enter to make an order online, has been turned down repeatedly by the European Patent Office, EPO. The final decision was in July 2011, when an appeal board determined that one-click was, in effect, not inventive enough, given what was known when it was devised. That has led to a transatlantic divide in which patents that would not pass the scrutiny of the EPO have been asserted in the US and become the subject of bitter lawsuits there. The latest case involves Facebook, which is only approaching its 8th birthday. Early in March, after it had said it would make a public offering, it was hit by a patent lawsuit from, astonishingly, Yahoo, one of the biggest names online. Now under a new chief executive, Scott Thompson, Yahoo wants to benefit from what may be its only advantage over Facebook, which is bigger, more profitable, and faster growing. Yahoo is claiming that Facebook infringes 10 of its patents, including a number relating to advertising on the web, a field where it was an early entrant. What Yahoo has is age, and with it a portfolio of software patents acquired or created during its life. Subscribe this channel. To make sure hit the like button and share video. It's things that nearly all social services use, wrote M.G. Siegler, a journalist turned venture capitalist. It's obvious things that existed before Yahoo patented them. But as John Lilly, former chief executive of browser company Mozilla, who is also now a venture capitalist, pointed out, companies from Apple to Amazon have been patenting and suing rivals for years. What has made the Yahoo case different is that it is no longer seen as an innovative company. For most companies, being sued by a big rival is actually a mark that you've arrived. While Facebook didn't need the validation, the lawsuit has clearly shown which of the two companies is in the ascendant. That's not true of Apple, which has been suing a number of companies making products based on Google's Android mobile software, notably HTC, Samsung and Motorola. In courts in the US, Europe and even Australia, as part of a Steve Jobs-inspired battle to try to block Android's growth in return for what he saw as theft of ideas from the iPhone. But despite filing its first lawsuits almost 2 years ago, Apple has won only token injunctions against particular phones in some regions. Though it succeeded in blocking Samsung's Galaxy Tab tablet from sale in Australia and Germany, the bigger effect was to make the product's name better known because of media coverage, and so raise demand. Hardly the outcome it would have wanted. It's nothing different really from Dyson and Hoover arguing about cyclonic vacuum cleaners. But it won't have any effect on the ordinary man in the street, he thinks, nor even the software developer. These are traditional patent disputes, says Frost. There's no example of a phone company being wiped out by a patent claim. Even BlackBerry Maker Research in Motion, which wound up paying $600 million after losing a patent war with NTP in March 2006, went on to greater things. Its latest slump into loss, and falling handset sales, even while its patent resources have grown enormously, is because it has not been able to compete, not because it was litigated out of business. However, for many smaller companies, software patents really can pose an existential threat. Loadsys does not make right software, it exists to make money from the patents owns. Last year a number of British developers began receiving formal letters from a company called Lodsys, which owns a number of patents that it claims cover the use of what are called in-app purchases, where you buy some extra functionality from inside a program. Rather than using the patents to make anything, it subsists by exacting a toll from those it can persuade to pay, either through legal threats or actual lawsuits. In the lingo, it is a patent troll, or, more politely, a non-practicing entity. For independent developers, often companies with between 1 and 5 staff, not owned by any of the giant phone makers, the attention of a patent troll can make them turn away from a territory altogether. That began to happen last year as Lodsys racked up its threats against developers for both Apple and Google's Android mobile operating systems. A number of British developers simply pulled their apps from sale to US customers of Apple's App Store and Google's Android market, since renamed Play, rather than face Lodsys patents. For the small firms targeted by Lodsys, the rational thing to do is to pay the money Lodsys demands, whether or not the target believes he's actually guilty, says Timothy Lee, who has co-written a paper about the problems that software patents now pose to developers. It's also now impossible for any software developer to find out whether they might be infringing someone else's patents, Lee says, because it's so hard to know what to search for. Unlike, say, chemists with a new formula, who can find any patents covering its creation. Patents definitely threaten the open web, she said. Patent owners have sued other companies for such banalities as using JPEG files and transmitting data typed into websites. By locking up the basic building blocks of the internet and obvious software processes, patents hamper the free flow of information and increase the financial risks associated with simple activities, such as having a website. Subscribe this channel. And thanks for watching.